today's going to be an interesting one. I sort of sat around and thought about this the other day because I'm doing this beginner's challenge and then I've got this beginner's course coming up. And I was like, God, like trying to really put myself in that beginner's mind frame. Thinking back to when I first started yoga, what was going on in my head, what were my hesitations, what were the things that I was nervous about, and then what are the things that I was thinking that were just completely not necessarily true. So I'm going to chat to you about 8 things that I wish I knew before I started yoga. Um, I think first of all, like set yourself into a beginner's mind frame. So, how many hobbies, sports, or exercises have you tried? Have you said, "Yep, I'm going to give that a go"? Or you buy that bit of equipment, you buy that exercise ball, you buy those weights, and then you give it up in a matter of days, weeks, or months, okay? I have done that many, many times. If I'm really honest, yoga is kind of the only thing that I've continued, that I've really enjoyed doing, and that I've carried on for years and years and years, which I think is a testament to how kind of all-encompassing and holistic yoga is, and that it's not just like a fad exercise. It's something way before. I mean, you can't be a fad. It's like thousands and thousands of years old, so it's been around forever. But there's a lot of reasons why people don't make it past that beginner stage when they're trying out something new. So being a beginner in anything, even like your first day at work or a new job, it can be super uncomfortable. It can be really embarrassing because you don't know what to wear, you don't know what to do. And it can be hard bloody work, first of all, and you can feel like a total dummy compared to others, okay? It can feel a little bit like everybody has this secret handbook that's telling them exactly what to do and how to be, and you're the only one without it, which can be really frustrating. They know how to move, they know what to wear, they know what to do, they know when to speak, when not to speak. Just kind of like set yourself for a minute, like close your eyes and just think back to, your first day at work, or maybe even your first day at university or college, maybe your first Zoom call that you hosted. But like all of these things, you're just like, I'm new, I don't know what to do. So I just want to paint you a little picture of my first yoga class. So, and how little I knew and how unprepared I was, okay? So I decided for my first yoga class not to be like a slower hatha style yoga class. I decided, thinking about it now, it's really quite funny, but I decided that my first ever yoga class was going to be 1, hot yoga, 2, like an intermediate style class, and 3, up about 10 flights of stairs to get to the yoga studio. It was a disaster in the making. I was completely out of breath by the time I arrived, and then had to walk into the studio being like, like super unfit already, quite embarrassed. I was asked to bring a towel. I brought a bath towel, which was a mistake. Anybody who's done hot yoga knows that a bath towel is only going to slip and slide on your mat. You need like a proper non-slip one. I didn't know that. Um, I wore baggy clothes and track pants. Again, I was in a hot yoga class. You can imagine how much I was sweating and how uncomfortable I was, like baggy clothes sticking to you. And then I also went to the back row. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the back row. I'm going to hide. No one's going to see me. What I didn't realize is that the class was actually going to turn and the teacher was going to go to either side, but like a mandala style. So loads of the class I was actually in the front row. So that was also terrifying. I think about it now, it's crazy. I brought fizzy water, so that was a mistake. I just ended up like burping the whole time, or trying to like hold back my burps. It was a morning class. I had breakfast before. I think I even had like a full English. Super, super, super big mistake. But somehow I got through it, okay? And I'm a yoga teacher now, so somehow it didn't completely destroy my love of yoga. I think it's important for all yoga teachers and all yogis to kind of reflect and think back and remember what it was like for your first class. And one of the most wonderful things that I loved about my yoga studio when it was open was just how welcoming and wonderful the regulars were. It's so obvious when it's somebody's first class, they walk in and their face is quite like, and their eyes are really big, like a deer in headlights. And, just having a yoga teacher who reaches out to you, who smiles at you, or having another student in the class say, oh, is it your first class? Okay, put your bag here, or you can go here. So just knowing that, I'm going to switch this onto my 4G. Sorry, Facebook. I've just got Instagram issues. Right, guys, my internet kept going. So I've gone on my 4G, so it should hopefully stay with me. So there are loads of mistakes that you make in your first few yoga classes. But like I said, it's really important to have that really confident teacher and lovely people to do the classes with you. So even though I made all of those mistakes, I still fell in love with yoga. Um, we've all got to start somewhere. It's those mistakes that we make that kind of build our experiences, build our memories, because I can laugh at it now. And if we were just perfect at everything when we started, life would be pretty boring, wouldn't it? We'd never have any growth, which is the best thing about being a beginner. You have all those beginner gains, all of that growth. And I think, as many mistakes as you make, it really, really doesn't matter. Um, so, this bringing it back to what I was talking about at the beginning, sticking to new hobbies, activities, and sport, having some knowledge beforehand can be a massive help. And oh, my internet. And all of these things can be massively rewarding. So joining something and sticking to something, it can give you a sense of identity, it can give you a sense of community, and it can give you new skills if you commit. So saying all of this, there are a few things that I'd like you to know before you start your yoga journey, or maybe even if you've been practicing yoga for a while, here are some things that maybe you don't know already. So number one, okay, things I wish I knew before I started yoga, that yoga just isn't just poses. It's not just postures. It's not just what we call asana. So before I started practicing yoga, I had no idea how vast and how deep the practice was. I really thought that it was poses that you held for long periods of time, and the only goal was to gain flexibility. As I started my yoga practice and as I started going more frequently, I became obsessed with the postures. All I wanted to do was the poses, 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 poses. I didn't want to do the slow stuff. I didn't want to do the meditation. I just wanted to know the next difficult pose, okay? And this is something that's really common with beginners, to just focus, blinders on, and you're just focusing on the poses of the class. It took me at least a year to discover that yoga has all these other limbs and all these other elements of it. And these postures, these asana, these movements are simply a tool of yoga. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, I think you need to reframe what you believe yoga is. And if you still think that yoga is just the poses, then it's the realization that it's more than that. It's a state of calm, it's a state of realization, it's a state of coming inward. And the poses is just a tool to help you get there. Okay, so if you can think that yoga is more of a state of mind than it is the poses and the sequences in the class. Those are a tool to get you to that state of calm, to get you to that state of like groundedness. So the physical postures are a part of yoga, just like meditation, pranayama, the yamas, the niyamas. And don't worry if you don't know what any of that is. These are all tools, okay? And if you can imagine like a really like master craftsman, he's got loads of tools in his toolbox and he knows how to use all of those. As you go through your yoga practice and as you go through that journey, you start to pick up different tools. And you might start with asana. You might start with, the physical movement. And then you're going to get really good at that. And then you might pick up a different tool, and that might be meditation. And then you start using meditation, and you might use one more than the other. You might use them simultaneously. But as you practice, you start to using these tools to master the control of your mind, your mindset, your feeling of contentedness, and to feel ease and be feeling peaceful. Okay, so it is more than twisting and turning and jumping upside down and balancing on your head. Physical movements and postures are one part of yoga, but there are other important factors as well. So remembering that. And the incredible thing about yoga is that there are different parts of practice and they will reveal themselves to be more important or more useful for you in your life as your life kind of changes and manipulates in the ebbs and the flows. Okay, so different things will come about at different times, and that's also another really nice thing. When I first started yoga, asana was what I needed. That movement, the sweat, the clearing of my head, all of that, that's what I wanted. That's what I needed. I worked a really high stressful job and I just needed to like sweat it out and get rid of it. Where now pranayama and meditation is more something that I use more often. And that's just because bloody hell, there's a lot going on in the world and it's quite anxiety driven. Like, everything that's happening in America right now, like that's really affecting me. And I just need to ground myself and breathe and meditate rather than, stoking that fire within me and doing really intense practice. So that's number one. Yoga is more than poses. Number two, okay, yoga practice is super important. Home practice is super important. All of us are doing home practice right now, okay? So all of us are at home, studios are closed, and we don't have the luxury of going to the yoga studios. Most people have lessened or almost completely stopped their yoga practice because of this. They find it quite hard to not practice at a yoga studio and without a teacher kind of there and getting out of the house. If we all had a consistent at-home yoga practice, this transition into lockdown would be a lot less difficult for us to keep up our home practice, if that makes sense. So starting to develop the skills to practice at home is really important, because then you can carry your yoga practice no matter where you go or no matter what's happening in the world. And why not use today? Go and do some sun salutations. Go and do a little breathing exercise. It doesn't have to be this huge hour-long class. It could be 10 minutes. I really didn't start a home yoga practice till I did my yoga teacher training, and it was still scrappy at that. Over the years, I've had moments where I do a lot of home practice, and then also moments where I barely do any at all. My mat's collecting more dust than it is me on it. But I think it's thinking about why it's important to have that home practice. And it's where we really start to develop and we begin to sit with yoga, the bigger picture of yoga, not just going to the class and not just doing the poses, but what's going on inside you? What's going on in the mind? What do you need? And knowing what you need. So understanding your own body, your own mind, and saying, right, today I feel really good. I've got loads of energy. I'm going to go do a really intense vinyasa class. Or I've been sitting at my desk for the last week and I can barely move. I'm moving like the Tin Man. I probably need a bit of gravity yoga or yin yoga or something restorative. So that understanding of your body and knowing what you need. It's also the dedication of showing up on your mat, no matter the overwhelm, no matter the distraction, and just saying that this is my time and I'm going to go practice. It's harnessing the control of your mind and that willpower. Okay, and that's yoga. That's yoga practice. So home practice, number two, home practice is important. Number three, I love this one, and I had absolutely no idea about it when I started yoga, and that's that you do not need to be flexible to be a yogi. You do not need to be flexible to do yoga. My favorite line to use on people when they say, oh, I'd like to do yoga, but I'm just not flexible enough. And I say to them, saying you're too inflexible to do yoga is like saying that you're too dirty to have a shower. Okay, it's redundant. You'd never say, oh gosh, yeah, I'm too muddy. I'm just not going to have my shower. That's not the way it works. And so, if you are somebody who has used that before, if you are somebody who feels like they can't do yoga because they're inflexible, I want you to just sit with that. Saying you're too inflexible to do yoga is like saying you're too dirty to have a shower. So one of the most common misconceptions of non-yoga practitioners is that you need to be flexible to practice yoga, okay? That's not the point at all, okay? It is a benefit, but it's not the point. You'll never be, the thought that you'll never be good at yoga if you can't do the splits. You'll never be good at yoga if you can't stand on your head. This is all complete baloney. Trust me, it only creates reservations of new yogis that are fixated on their lack of flexibility. So throw that out the door. Remember, yoga is about your body and no one else's. So you are practicing, when you're practicing that movement, that asana, you are looking to create more space. Not necessarily to get to the splits. You're finding more space in your own body. You're working on balance. So if you are someone who hunches over all the time on your laptop or on your computer, you're looking to balance that out by taking back bends, by opening up the chest, and to feel more comfortable and connected in your body. So there's no need to compare, and there's no need to focus on one pose, and that if you can't do that pose or you don't think you'll ever do that pose, that you can't do yoga. Whatever your body looks like, whatever your body moves like, that's okay. That's perfect. That's a great body to do yoga. We all have to start somewhere, and all of our destinations are not the same. Okay, I am naturally probably less flexible than a lot of yogis, a lot of yoga teachers. I might never get the splits. I'm okay with that. Okay, that's my body. Gaining flexibility and mobility is a benefit of yoga, but it does not measure how successful or how good you are. Also remember that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to get there overnight, guys. So it is, Your practice and your movement will become easier and easier, and you will link your breath more with the movement the more you practice. Linking that breath with your movement is going to help to gain flexibility, but you have to practice yoga to get there. We're all built differently. All of our bodies are different. They carry different stories, different experiences. Somebody might have broken a bone. Somebody might have, lived in a different country, different movement patterns. So just, know that idea of flexibility, you have to be flexible to be a yogi. Get rid of it. It's not true. So number 4, okay, we're halfway there. Number 4 is that Instagram yoga is not yoga. Okay, so yes, I do yoga on Instagram, but that doesn't mean that Instagram, what you see on Instagram, this very sort of filtered feed, is what yoga is, okay? So feeling like you don't belong or fit in, no matter what age, profession, or activities you do, is really common. Okay, imposter syndrome is super common, and I'm sure you've experienced it at one point in your life. Instagram and social media is only heightening that experience. Okay, so throw out of your brain that mix of different yoga pictures that you see online. The images and messages that you are going to see and that are going to come at you can instantly heighten that sense of imposter syndrome. Social media fills the blanks of our knowledge. So if you don't know much about yoga and you go and look on social media, all of a sudden you're seeing all these super bendy, super incredible yogis doing far more than yoga. They're doing like complete contortionist, acro yoga, stuff that you would see at a circus, stuff that you would see at Cirque du Soleil. That's not the kind of larger picture of yoga. There's endless social media accounts for yoga and hashtags, and many of these will show body types, strength and movement that for many of us just isn't attainable. And again, this is damaging, and it's not a representation of what yoga really is. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are drowning us with a deluge of these perfect body images. Generally, they're predominantly younger people, they're white, they're slim, and they're contortionists. Most of them as well are women. There is nothing wrong with being slim. There's nothing wrong with being able to be a contortionist. There's nothing wrong with being white. But the problem is the lack of representation, the lack of balance that we see on yoga, of skin colors, of body shapes, of abilities. If you want to go and put up an Instagram feed of you standing in Tadasana or just doing a squat or sitting cross-legged, it doesn't have to be this like flipping over backwards and doing all these crazy things. We need to see all yoga. This is starting to change. There is starting to be a larger representation, but again, it's very, very, very small. So just remember that Instagram yoga is not yoga. Okay, number 5. Number 5 is that not all yoga is the same, okay? So I want you to imagine a really strong, tall tree, okay? And the trunk of that tree is yoga, okay? So the trunk of that tree is yoga, but then the network of the roots, okay, are all the different pathways. So we've got that trunk that's representing, the general yoga, but then underneath there's this massive network of different ways to do yoga, different people doing yoga, different styles, and styles like Ashtanga, Bikram, Hatha, Vinyasa, Rocket, Forest, Nidra, Yin, Hot Yoga, Mandala Yoga. It's endless, okay? And, that's incredible. Some of these aren't traditional. Goat yoga, for instance, okay? I'm pretty sure thousands of years, maybe they were actually, but thousands of years ago, I'm sure that the Ashtangis and the classic yoga practitioners weren't doing poses or meditation with goats hopping all around them. There's nothing wrong with goat yoga. It's really lovely. But, it might not be classical, but that's okay. I don't have an issue with that. Someone who is a very traditional yoga teacher might feel differently. But, there's enough space for all of us. These are just some of the styles, and I love this about yoga. There's a style for everyone, okay? And as your life changes, you might feel more drawn to a different style of yoga or a different practice. So I was very obsessed with Vinyasa flow, power yoga. Then I got an injury, and then suddenly the world of yin, the world of restorative yoga opened up for me, and I saw a place for that style of yoga, and I fell in love with it. Ashtanga yoga, for instance, is repetitive, and it features the same poses over and over in a very strict focus on alignment. So some people really like this. Some people who maybe have very powerful jobs and they need to make lots of really intense decisions and they're always the person making the choice might like Ashtanga because they don't have to have any control. It's regimented, it's clear, they're being instructed exactly what to do. Where, Vinyasa flow is more rhythmic, it features music, the class poses will change class to class, teacher to teacher. It's more like a dance. It has a lot of cardio fitness. So maybe if you're someone who has dance background or someone who doesn't like strict rules, you've never been one that paints in the lines, maybe you'd like Vinyasa flow better. And, each teacher, each class, each yoga studio will teach these classes slightly different. And again, this is a good thing, okay? Don't look at it as it's bad or it's wrong. It's just different. So embrace the perspective and allow yourself to keep that judgment off the mat. Go into a class, go into a teacher, and just allow yourself to let go and enjoy it. Okay, number 6, it's okay to use props or have a rest. Again, something that I didn't realize for quite a long time. I did not take advantage of this as a beginner, and I wish that I did. So much so as a beginner because I would have felt far more in control of my yoga practice. So I was consistently, when I was new, uncomfortable holding my breath in poses, and I couldn't get into them properly. If I had used blocks, if I had used props, I could have got into those postures with a lot more ease and control, and I would have been able to breathe into the poses. Knowing now what I know, I would have made progress a lot faster as well, because when you can breathe properly, then you can find more space in the body. So ego is often the reason why people don't use props and don't take advantage of these in a class or take rest when they need it. And again, this is part of yoga. You're learning to kind of take the ego and put it to the side. So the belief that using a prop means the easy way out or that you're not pushing yourself hard enough is just bollocks. It's just not true. An amazing yoga teacher, Zaz, she came to do a workshop for me quite a while ago, is doing this. I think she's doing a workshop on it where she's using blocks in like a really challenging way. So using blocks to kind of push yourself further. So they can be used for so many things. And this awareness of when to use props also shows strength because we understand our body and we can respond to what our body needs and what it can benefit from. So when we are uncomfortable, when we are struggling in a pose and we compromise our alignment, okay, it stops us breathing properly and it can also lead to injury. So I want you, if you are going to start a home yoga practice, which I hope you are if you don't already have one, to get your hands on a set of blocks or bricks, yoga bricks. They're super cheap. Look at your local studios to see if they sell it before you just, first of all, run to Amazon, and just to support if you can, and a yoga strap. You don't necessarily need it to be a yoga strap. It could be a dressing gown belt or a long scarf, but these 2 props can really, really help you. You can then get more versatile props like a yoga wheel or a bolster as your practice continues. Okay, and if the prop isn't helping you and you still are feeling really puffed out and uncomfortable, take a break. Honestly, stop, take a break, breathe. Drink some water, sit down, plop yourself into a child's pose, whatever you need. There is no shame in resting. There's no shame in using blocks. This is simply an awareness of your body, and it shows that you're brave, that you do what your body needs. All right, guys, we got 2 more left. Whew, catch my breath. So number 7, there is no perfect and there is no complete in yoga. I love it. I don't even feel like I need to say much more than that. But I will, because I don't know how to be quiet. So I was obsessed with attaining specific postures and transitions when I started yoga. I was obsessed with getting pincha pose, balancing on my forearms. I was obsessed with hop backs and hop forwards. I raced to look like others in the class that I attended. And really, it wasn't until I injured myself that I had to completely rejig my yoga practice. It sounds counterintuitive or like I'm not listening to my own advice, which I wasn't at the time. I was a yoga teacher when I injured myself, but your ego and what you're telling your students, they're like constantly in this battle with each other. And now, I do practice what I preach because I've suffered the consequence of not doing that. There will always be an ebb and flow in your yoga. There will always be different things happening to your body and your mind. And your yoga practice is this wonderful fluctuating thing that can do that with you. Think about yoga practice as being a circle with no end. We will all come into yoga at a different point in that circle. That's fine. And we will all kind of bounce around that circle in different points as well. But there is no end to it, really. There just isn't. This is called yoga practice. We practice it. There is no competition. Well, there are yoga competitions, but I don't want you to think about that. There is no trophy that you're going to get at the end of your class, especially with a class with me. There's no winning, no goals, no perfection, and no finish line. So there's no trophy, there's no winner's circle. Drop the competitiveness before you enter the mat. And as you get comfortable and strong in one posture, you'll have other doors to open on what to focus on. So you might start to get really comfortable in one sort of position in that pose, but then a teacher will say, okay, now I want you to engage the core, or now I want you to drop the shoulders, or now I want you to lift the chest. So there's always other ways that you can improve as well. And, as you realize and achieve one aspect of the pose, there will always be another one around the corner, another posture to work on. It's not a race and it's not a competition. Each of you is on your own special, unique journey, and you need to really remind yourself of that. Your yoga mat is a magical place. It's a place where you work towards that journey of your true self, that contentedness, that groundedness, that self-realization. Okay, you can go as woo-woo as you want with this, or it can just be, I'm working on feeling less anxious. I'm working on breathing deeper. Accepting who you are on this journey will make it so much better. And the last reason, or the last thing that I wish I knew before I started yoga, is that yoga can change your life. I am living proof of yoga changing your life. Okay, it was my turning point. It was my catalyst for one of the biggest changes in my life. It has helped me refuse diet culture. It has helped me enjoy movement. It has helped me change my career. It has helped me control my emotions. It has got me to connect closer to my body and my mind. It has done so much for me, and it will continue to do so much for me as my life changes, as my experience changes. Coming into this pandemic, yoga has totally helped me in so many ways. And when I went to my first yoga class many, many years ago, I never imagined the extent to which yoga would affect every aspect of my life. What we cultivate and what we absorb on the mat, it spreads into all aspects of us. Okay, our mindset begins to change, and it will strengthen and adapt, and it will also then weave into our other habits and our other beliefs. Our awareness then is heightened. We no longer move through life without this connection to why we do, what we do, okay, and the effect of what we do has on others and the planet. It's this real kind of holistic culmination of knowledge. Our curiosity is also heightened. We begin to pick apart the way we live our lives, and not in like a necessarily judgmental way, but just in a like eye-opening way. Okay, it might be looking at why you drink so much dang coffee, or that glass of wine that you need to have every single night. Do you need to have it, or is it just a habit? The food we put in our body, our addiction to technology, and the way we react or interact with others that we love or care about, and then also our relationship with the planet. So without this knowing and without this process of yoga, perhaps we wouldn't realize or become as connected as we are with ourselves and the world that we live in. Okay, so those are my 8 reasons why we should, or 8 things that I wish I knew before I started practicing yoga. They're not kind of tips or tricks to how to do poses, but they're these bigger things, okay? So if you are interested in starting yoga, if you have any reservations at all, please send me a DM, get in contact. I've got my 5-day beginner challenge. It starts on Monday, and it's totally free. So if you do want to join, guys, please, please, please join. And then finally, I've got that beginner's course that will be coming up. All the information is going to be released. So I hope that you feel a little bit more empowered to do yoga. If you have been practicing for a while, maybe there's been a realization of something, or maybe you've just realized, yep, this is exactly why I love yoga. Thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.